You've probably just finished Memories of Ice and you thought, hey, I would love to be able to read some books with bridge burners having adventures and missions and stuff. And I've got the right book for you. It's Chronicles of the Black Company by Glen. And yeah, that's the Black Company, that's a major inspiration for Mr. Steven Erikson. And it's kind of unfair to just say, oh, Glen was the guy who inspired Steven Erikson and Malazan, because the Black Company is much more than that. I've read the first book, The Black Company, back in 2020, and I wanted to love it. But I just couldn't. There is a review for this quite some time ago and it was not enthusiastic. Maybe it was because I was not in the right headspace for a book like that. Maybe it was the fact that the author had a very dry style of somebody chronicling a lot of episodes in the adventures of a mercenary company that ends up working for the Dark Lord, or actually the Dark Lord's wife. The Black Company is a company of mercenaries who end up working for the lady, who, let's say that in Lord of the Rings terms, she is Sauron's wife. Sauron was defeated. It was not Sauron, it was the Dominator. He was buried, but the lady escaped. She got the Taken, some very powerful Nazgul-like wizards out of the grave. They were the servants of the Dominator, and now she's building an empire and fighting off rebels. And the legendary White Rose, who was the person who captured and trapped the Dominator. During the adventure of the book, we find out that Dominator is trying to escape. And yeah, it was a very interesting take on epic fantasy. It was very dark and grim and gritty, and basically the granddaddy of grim. It's not the granddad. It was the daddy of grimdark, the Black Company. So I decided to give the book another chance and go for the second book in the series, Linger. And oh my god, that was the book I always want to read from the Black Company, because unlike the Black Company, this book feels more like a novel. So we have Croker, who is the doctor of the Black Company, and he was the chronicler in the book 1, who is one of the narrators in first person. And then we have another point of view, an innkeeper in a city on the north that happens to have Raven from the first book as a guest. And Raven is not alone, of course. He is protecting a mute and deaf girl, Darling, and he is into some shady business up in this city. I cannot recall what it's called. Juniper. In the city of Juniper. And Juniper is an interesting city because there are catacombs there and the dead are sacred, so there are very strict laws about mistreating the dead. And also there is a black castle outside, and as we discover this, there are creatures in this castle that buy corpses from Raven, because he's trying to get money to escape the land with Darling, because there are lots of things happening and I won't spoil book 1 for you. Alright, so he's having some very unholy dealings with creatures in the castle, and as we learn, the castle is growing, probably because of the corpses being sold to the creatures there. And the Black Company is called in order to help with the situation of the castle growing. And things are just falling apart because the Black Company has some secrets from the Taken and the Lady that if they are revealed, it will put them in danger, and they try to cover the tracks, fighting and hiding Raven from the city officials. Then there is the whole subplot of the innkeeper, who what's his name? Maron said, who has troubles with local moneylenders. He has debts, he has to take care of his sick mother and the family business, and he's a coward. He has a lot of weaknesses, a lot of vices. So it's quite interesting to read this one. It's still very grim. It's got this down-to-earth, gritty feeling that the original had. Nothing is epic or overblown, everything is very trivial, which is what makes the plot moving, because we get to some epic shit towards the middle of the book, towards the climax of the book. Yeah, it was very interesting to get there, how it escalates there, and the magic castle, and the big battle towards the end. And it's always given from the point of view of somebody who is in the field, a normal soldier who is way over his head, and that's a big appeal to the Black Company. That yes, there are epic stuff happening, there are wizards, and basically they're wizards, they're Nazgul-like wizards who are also conspiring towards one another. There's a lot of infighting in the latest empire and cross purposes, and our not quite heroes also have to survive all this. And that's what Glen Cook brought to the fantasy genre, this realism, this feel of this is a real war, that makes the Black Company so interesting. And a lot of this military fantasy style of grim darkness, cross purposes, and epic games or something, or all this has been the legacy of Glen Cook to the fantasy genre, to authors like Steven Erikson. And yeah, in a way, the whole Bridge Burner campaign feels pretty similar to the Black Company, the plot line and gods and stuff, but here there are no high-level gods and wars and stuff. It's just a feet on the ground approach to fantasy warfare that makes this book very interesting, and I enjoyed it thoroughly. It's definitely recommend. If you read book 1 of the Black Company, you're like, I didn't like the writing, read Linger, because that's what you probably want to read. It's a great book and I just loved it, and I believe that you will love it too. It's something completely different from your run-of-the-mill epic fantasy. It's another perspective, and it's not quite grimdark yet. It's the missing link between epic fantasy and grimdark, and that's what makes it very interesting. And I'm looking forward to read book 3, The White Rose, which is, it finishes the first trilogy of the Black Company. I know there's another series after that with 4 books, but I may have lost a lot of faith at reading the first book, but the second book really is there. It's really as good as people say, and you should definitely read it. So that was my review for Linger by Glen Cook, the Black Company Book 2. If you've read the book, please leave a comment below, like, subscribe, all this jazz, and I'll see you soon. Thank you for watching.